Hello and welcome. My name is Roger Quayle, and you are listening to My Life in the Mosh of Ghosts. Hello and welcome back to My Life in the Mosh of Ghosts. My name is Roger Quayle, and thank you for joining me again. Today's episode is about a band called Salon Graph, who I saw 3 times in the autumn and winter of 1979. Salon Graph were another of the great lost bands of the post-punk era in Sheffield. This is also a tale of infatuation, as I was somewhat besotted with their lead singer, Pam Young. So here we go, it's Salon Graph with 3 gigs in the autumn and winter of 1979, Nowsoc on the 22nd of October, the Broadfield on the 30th of November, and the Blitz Club on the 11th of December in 1979. Brick by brick, I have started to dismantle the lighthouse-sized torch I have been carrying for Sheena Gates. Our on-off relationship has been flickering intermittently since she left to study in the city of dreaming spires. So when the Oxford postmarked Dear Roger letter arrives in mid-October, I decide to go the full Fred Dibner on what is already a crumbling edifice. Naturally, I do what any jilted teenager would do, write heart-torn sixth form verse and listen to Joy Division. My first encounter with Salon Graph is at a Now Society, or Nowsoc for short, night in Bar 2 at Sheffield University's Student Union. A drummerless quartet, they are led by Ian Elliott, known simply as Elliott, on lead vocals and guitar. Elliott looks like a young, lean Andy Warhol. On bass guitar, tall, handsome, lantern-jawed and channeling Studio One reggae vibes, is Ian Burden, known as Eric. And leaning over a Tysco organ is Martin Roots, known as Did, who resembles the Buzzcocks' Pete Shelley with a pudding bowl haircut. He's also keeping a watchful eye on the drum machine. All 3 are originally from Peterborough, drawn to Sheffield in search of further education, cheap beer, and even cheaper bus fares. Earlier in 1979, then known simply as Graph, they contributed a superb Wire-inspired song called Drowning to the Earcom EP, released on cool Scottish independent label Fast Product, also home to the Human League's debut 45. Since then, they have lost a drummer, prefixed their name with the Cafe Society suggesting Salon, and recruited Pam Young from local new wave hopefuls The Parts. Pam provides a sweet harmonic counterpoint to Elliott's neurotic warble. Their voices, Strawberries and Strychnine, blend surprisingly well. Pam also chimes in with sleepy narcotic drones on melodica, adding to the elastic, dubby feel of the music. All 4 on stage obey a strict monochrome dress code. Pam looks like a chic Napoleonic chef, petite, coquettish, with aero bubble curls that tumble over her shoulders. She is as pretty as a Peak District postcard. I resolved to go and see her and Salon Graph again as soon as possible. Sheena's 1 million candle power beacon is snuffed out in an instant. So I'm with old school bandmates Lango and Vinner, and we're off to see Salon Graph at the Broadfield, as I'm on a mission to convert them both to the Church of Pam. Since I last saw them, the 4-piece have been joined by a drummer, their songs benefiting from the give and take that comes with human hands pushing the rhythmic pulse. Musical currents eddy and flow in escalating layers, songs tower and teeter, threatening to collapse at any moment. Elliot, with shades of David Byrne here, walks the high wire between euphoric and shambolic. What do you reckon then?
Pretty good.
Did you see she smiled at me?
She smiled at everyone, Rog.
No, it was a special smile, just for me. I know the key to a good crush. It's better to have shoved and lost than never to have shoved at all. So I'll continue to ignore the warning to quit, right in the middle of unrequited. Saturday the 1st of December, 8:45 a.m. and I'm standing in a short queue outside Virgin Records at the foot of the moor. Just ahead of me is Stephen Singleton from Vice Versa. I sort of know him. He's releasing a Clock DVA track on an EP next year. We're both waiting in line to buy the new Talking Heads album, Fear of Music, the first 5 purchases of which get a free sweatshirt. I love Talking Heads, and I'm guessing Stephen loves them too. Maybe he knows Pam Young. This is an ideal opportunity to strike up a conversation. But, being stoic northern men, not a word is spoken. A week later, I'm at my 3rd Salon Graph gig in 6 weeks. I've never seen any other band more than twice. Apart from the Stunt Kites, who are mates, so that doesn't really count. Since popping my gig cherry with an all-girl Runaways 2 years earlier, women on stage in bands have been something of a rarity for me. True, new wave bandwagon chasers Snips had a girl bass player at the Limit Club last year, and she would have been the last one I'd seen. But any falling debris from the all-woman punk Rushmore of Susie, Patti Smith, Debbie Harry and Ari Up has yet to carve out much of an impression in Sheffield, with the exception of the mysterious, gelid Jane Wilson of I'm So Hollow. And now, for me, Pam Young. Having seen I'm So Hollow on the opening night, I'm now a Blitz Club regular. Clock DVA even played here last week, though it was only our 5th gig in 6 months. Salon Graph's singular arid psychedelia fills the upstairs room of the George IV pub. Spindly, whirring, insistent, unpredictable, the band's Daddy Longlegs rock and roll bounces off the walls. I'm standing halfway back on the left-hand side, among 100+ like-minded fans, strategically positioned for the best view of Pam. She's dressed in black, with a maverick cowboy necktie. An avenging Annie Oakley, who's right at home amid the pub's faux ranch-style decor. Elliot, a janitor of lunacy on leave from nearby Middlewood Hospital, leads the band through a mighty version of Drowning with its anthemic chorus. Nobody's going to sink this ship because they've got a fear of drowning. I'm hoping for another smile, like the earthbound Cahutek admiring his distant flaming comet from afar. The roles are reversed on Christmas Eve. Back at the Broadfield, Pam is now watching me. Their usual woodchopper Brent being unavailable, I'm sitting in on drums for local punk rock heroes, the Stunt Kites, delighted to be at the heart of their wailing whirlwind of defiance. Afterwards, there is a chance to speak to my prettiest star, but my tongue is a tombstone, flat on the floor of my mouth. A week later, Pam Young leaves Salon Graph. Elliot, Burden and Roots reconvened a few months later as the musical Janines. Ian Eric Burden, joined the Human League, co-writing the hits Love Action, I Believe in Love, Mirror Man, and The Sound of the Crowd. I played drums on a session with Elliot and Ian in a studio on Devonshire Street in 1984, on tracks for Elliot's planned solo album. I don't know if they were ever released. Pam Young went on to work for Zoo Records in Liverpool. She is one of the score women celebrated on the cover of Julian Cope's 1995 solo album, 20 Mothers. You have been listening to My Life in the Mosh of Ghosts with me, your host, Roger Quayle. Thank you to John for the guest voice. Thank you to Simon Elliott Kemp for the intro and outro music. And thank you to Rionagh for the artwork. Join me again next time for another story from my life in the Mosh of Ghosts. This is Roger Quayle saying thank you and bye-bye.